Welcome to our social studies lesson, and today we are just going to look at human rights. So we start by asking ourselves what are these human rights? And these human rights, these are just privileges and freedoms entitled to all Kenyans. So they are just privileges. They are freedoms that each and every citizen has, and they are they are entitled in our constitution, and you get them in chapter 4 of our constitution. And this chapter is just known as the Bill of Rights, because like it contains all these rights and all these freedoms. So we have some rights here, and one is a right to life. So you have a right to live. Nobody is supposed to curtail your life. Then another right is right to education. As a child or as a young person, you have the right to get education. So nobody is supposed to tamper, or nobody is supposed to prevent you from getting education. Then right to information. Each and every citizen has a right to get the information. Then right to vote, and this is for the citizens who are 18 years and above. All of them, and they have the identity cards, they have the right to vote. Then right to own property. We have right to own property. So each and every person has that right to own property. And then now the private property that one owns, nobody is supposed to take away from him or her. Then another right to equality, especially before the law. Each and everyone we are all equal before the law. And then right to shelter. Each and every person has a right to live in a good place. Each and every person has a right to live in a good place. We have right to food. Right to food is another right, whereby now each and every person has that right to get food, and nobody is supposed to hinder one person from getting the food. Then we have right to marry. Right to marry, also, that is also another right, whereby now any adult has that right to marry. And when it comes to this right to marry, you are supposed to marry a person of the opposite gender according to our constitution. Then we have now the freedoms here, and now the freedoms, these are ability to make choices or do things without being stopped by others. So when you hear the freedom, this is the ability. You make choice without anybody, or without nobody stopping you from making those choices. So one of the freedom is we have freedom to worship, whereby now you have the freedom to choose where to go and worship. Another freedom is freedom of movement. We have the freedom of movement. So you have that freedom to move from one place to another, but now you are not supposed to tamper with somebody else's freedom or somebody else's rights in your movements. Then freedom of assembly. We have the freedom of assembly, whereby now you can assemble, provided you are not planning evil or bad things. We have freedom of association. Freedom of association, this is the freedom of forming some groups, especially the youth groups, the beneficial groups. So we have this freedom of association, but you cannot form a bad group or a militia. So even if there is this freedom of association, these groups one has to form, they are supposed to be good. Then freedom of expression. Freedom of expression, each and every person has that freedom to express his or her ideas, to express his or her opinions. Then another freedom is freedom from discrimination. Each and every person has that freedom. Nobody is supposed to discriminate against you. Then freedom of speech. We have the freedom of speech. So this is another freedom now where you are supposed to be heard. You are supposed to be listened. So those are some of the freedoms and the rights that they are contained in our constitution. And now for more of this, log in into our Soma Plus app. Thank you.